Here in the Glycemia Desert, we've had an epic battle for balance in life. You might otherwise call it our local pathophysiology. But I'm not one for fancy words. Well, the fountain of life here springs from the nourishing rainfall that lands upon the gastric valley. Well, that's what makes the glucose tumbleweeds grow, roll on across the desert, and finally go off to provide fodder for them lands beyond. For as long as anyone can remember, the insulin gnomes have watched the pace of the glucose weeds from atop the Isles of Langerhans. Well, they mosey on out to the periphery off yonder to meticulously corral them into the cells of the peripheral lands. But nowadays, the insulin gnomes have grown weary, overcome by the ever-rising amounts of glucose. And one way the gnomes could tell when the rains were rising in the valley was that the Incretin lizards would come a-running, all flushed out of the L-cell canyons, scampering across the desert and right into the Isles, as it were. To make that trek, those poor little lizards have to pass under the nose of their fiercest predator, the DPP4s, sandworms. Some pay the ultimate sacrifice. Now, with the combined forces of the Incretin lizards and insulin gnomes, the glucose weed was tamed. But over time, this natural partnership proved too weak against the growing wrath of the glucose weed, especially when the peripheral lands took to turning the insulins away, not wanting to trouble themselves with housing more of the stuff. And so began the era of diabeta. And so the glucose weeds ran rampant, gumming up all them microvessels everywhere, from the nephron forests to the axonal woods, and even them retinal prairies. Not to even mention that mighty danger to the heart and brain. Yes, sir, the delicate balance of life was threatened. All around was hardship, and the hope that someday a new hero would emerge. And here we start our story.